Well, Bennett Kessler filed this story. On Friday, 100 mules and people from Eastern Sierra Pack stations will gather at the intake of the Los Angeles Aqueduct to begin a 240-mile march to Los Angeles. Now, the event marks the 100th anniversary of the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power Aqueduct. This anniversary is met with some cynicism in the Eastern Sierra, where DWP has played a heavy hand on water and land matters. Now, the director of the Mule event wants to raise awareness of LA's water source. Lauren Bond of Metabolic Studio in Lone Pine favors a reconciliation of LA and the Eastern Sierra. Bond says that she works through performative action and follow through after the action with years of community engagement. She cites the current making and distribution of soil with Julie Fott in the Lone Pine area. Bond said the Mule Walk, quote, stems from that engagement, end quote, and uses manure from pack stations to make soil. The Mule March will also help local packers. Jennifer and Lee Roser of McGee Creek Pack Station were hired by Lauren Bond and Metabolic Studio to perform the 100 Mule March. Ms. Roser said all of her mules and some from other local pack stations will join in this event, along with staff, equipment, purchases, and many services from Inyo County. She told the Inyo County Board of Supervisors that the event amounts to a real economic gain for the Owens Valley. Now, the mules and people will kick off the event around 10:30 a.m. and start the journey at noon. Now, for most of the walk, they will follow alongside the aqueduct, and then they will march down to the LA Cascades, where Eastern Sierra water flows into the city of Los Angeles. That's November 5th, when LADWP will also hold a ceremony at the Cascades. Now, the mules and people will continue through the San Fernando Valley and finally to Glendale, where Lauren Bond says, quote, we have organized a Veterans Day parade to highlight the 2,000-year tradition of mules in the military, end quote. Bond said it also builds on her work at the Veterans Administration in West LA in providing homes for veterans. The mule teams will lay over at the LA Equestrian Center and finally back home to the Owens Valley on November 13th. Roser said she is honored that the studio and Lauren Bond entrusted this event to her and her husband. Said Roser, quote, as a packer, you prepare your whole life for something like this. You can put together your skills and assets for a unique event to celebrate a modern engineering marvel aside from political feelings in the valley, end quote. Now, some other events for the weekend. Saturday, the Eastern California Museum and the Metabolic Studio will host Eden Interrupted, a talk on the impact of the LA Aqueduct on Owens Valley agriculture, and that will be Saturday, 2 p.m. at the Independence American Legion Hall. Also, the public is invited to a community potluck and harvest celebration starting at 4 p.m. on the grounds of the Eastern California Museum in Independence. You can call 760-878-0258 for more information on those two events. Now, on Sunday, Mules and Movies in Lone Pine. The Echo Park Film Center mobile film bus will be in town starting at noon and will invite the public to contribute content and comments on its work in progress. Where does your water come from? And then at 2 p.m., the Lone Pine Film History Museum will host a screening of the documentary film Watershed, and sponsored by the Eastern California Museum and the Metabolic Studio. Associate producer and former Sierra Wave employee Forrest Pound, an Owens Valley native, will be on hand for the Q&A after the film. Now, the Metabolic Studio's 100 Mules Walking the Los Angeles Aqueduct will arrive at the Lone Pine Rodeo grounds at about 4 p.m. on Sunday to a community welcome, and this will be hosted by the American Mule Museum of Bishop. At 5 p.m. Sunday, the spotlight will be squarely on Dolly the Power Mule, who is carrying solar panels that generate power and light, and her companions carrying an art studio, library, and archives, and other aspects of the 100 mules walking the LA Aqueduct's urban form. Now, the discussion of this experimental aspect of the Mule March will take place at the Metabolic Studio IOU Garden at Willow and Main Streets in Lone Pine. So many events this weekend for the 100th anniversary of the LA Aqueduct. Well, Bennett Kessler filed this report. If Congress fails to resolve the government shutdown this month, funding for food stamps and the Women, Infants, and Children program in Inyo County will suffer. Senior citizens programs could as well. Health and Human Services Director Gene Turner told the Inyo supervisors that 989 households in Inyo County would not receive food stamp funding if the government failed to reopen by the end of October. Turner did say that her department could temporarily fund these programs and another one that provides rent and utilities for those in need. Turner said WIC, the Women, Infants, and Children program, would impact 650 children and pregnant women who would not receive food vouchers. Turner recommended to the supervisors that Inyo County, quote, help people meet their basic needs, end quote. Turner said her department will take care of people on November 1st, regardless of what the federal government does, and she will meet again with the supervisors in November. Now, Turner said that senior programs could also be affected. She said an advisory council will meet October 30th, 10 a.m., Statham Hall in Lone Pine on this issue. Turner said that if the government news is worse, officials want to figure out how to manage senior programs. Turner said, quote, we want a range of solutions in advance of getting people too scared. We don't want to wait for a train wreck, she said. We'll be back with more news.